When people talk about the descendants of Adam and Eve, the first story that usually comes to mind is that of Cain and Abel. However, many tend to overlook other biblical accounts that mention the other sons and daughters of Adam and Eve. In this video, I will focus specifically on the daughters of Adam and Eve. Who were they, and how many of them were there? By referring to sources such as the Book of Jubilees, the Holy Bible, and ancient traditions, I will examine and discuss the history of these daughters of Adam. If this topic interests you, be sure to give this video a like and leave a comment. Join me as we explore this lesser-known part of biblical history, the untold story of Adam and Eve's daughters. A subject that is rarely discussed and often overlooked by theologians, biblical scholars, and those curious about sacred texts is the mysteries surrounding Adam and Eve's daughters. Most readers of the Bible focus on their more well-known sons, Cain, the firstborn, and Abel, the second. However, they often forget that Adam and Eve had many daughters as well. Genesis 5:4-5 provides fascinating details about Adam's offspring. It states that after having Seth, Adam lived for 800 more years, during which he fathered both sons and daughters, living a total of 930 years before passing away. Although the Bible does not name Adam and Eve's daughters, other ancient Jewish traditions do. The Book of Jubilees, in particular, identifies some of them by name. In this video, I will share what these ancient Jewish sources reveal about the daughters of Adam and Eve, shedding light on figures who are often overlooked. For those unfamiliar, the Book of Jubilees is sometimes called Little Genesis because of its connection to the concept of a jubilee, which signifies joy. It is part of the Old Testament Apocrypha and tells the story of creation, Adam and Eve's fall, and various other Old Testament events, particularly from the Book of Genesis. While it is an ancient text, the oldest surviving manuscript dates back to around 700 BCE. This manuscript is actually a copy of an even older work. Some scholars compare the Book of Jubilees to the Book of Chronicles, suggesting that the scribe Ezra may have been the one who wrote it. However, the Book of Jubilees itself claims that its true author was Moses, who received a revelation from an angel while on Mount Horeb. It is important to note that the Bible states Moses spent 40 days and 40 nights on Mount Horeb in the presence of God, without eating or drinking water. Given the ancient nature of the text, it is possible that Moses was indeed the original author. The Book of Jubilees held an important place in Israelite culture, with multiple copies circulating among the people. Additionally, it references another mysterious apocryphal text, the Book of Enoch. This book was well known among early Christians and was even included in the biblical canon they used. This highlights why the Book of Jubilees should not be dismissed, as it contains events that align with the biblical narrative. Now, turning back to Adam and Eve, according to ancient Semitic and Abrahamic traditions, their first daughter was named Avan. In Phoenician Hebrew, the name Avan can mean potency or vice. She was both the wife and sister of Cain, who was also a child of Adam and Eve. According to the Book of Jubilees, Avan had children with Cain, including a son named Enoch. The Bible mentions that one of Cain's major accomplishments, after being banished for killing Abel, was building a city, which he named Enoch in honor of his son. The name Avan appears in the Book of Jubilees and other Abrahamic texts. However, in some texts, such as the Cave of Treasures, she is called Kalima. This means that, according to these traditions, Kalima was another name for Cain's wife and the first daughter of Adam and Eve. According to several ancient Semitic traditions, Adam and Eve's second daughter was Azura. Azura became the wife of Seth, Adam and Eve's third son, who was born after Abel's death. The name Seth comes from Hebrew and is often associated with the idea of compensation or substitution. This is significant because, after Abel was killed by Cain, Adam and Eve saw Seth as a divine replacement for their lost son. Seth is portrayed as a righteous and devout descendant, and biblical tradition suggests that through his lineage, people continued to worship God. His genealogy is particularly important because it leads to Noah, the central figure in the story of the Great Flood, whose survival ensured the continuation of humanity. Seth and his wife Azura played an important role in the family line that connects the creation of humanity to later events and key figures in the Judeo-Christian tradition. The Book of Jubilees provides an interesting detail, stating that Azura was originally Abel's wife. After Abel was killed, she became a widow. When Seth reached adulthood, he married Azura, and from their union came the lineage of Seth. Seth became the founding patriarch of this family line. According to the book of Jubilees, Azurah was born in the 6th week of the 4th Jubilee. She later married her brother Seth in the 5th week of the 5th Jubilee. In the 4th year of the 6th week, she gave birth to a son and named him Enos. Later, when Enos grew up, he married his sister Noam, who was also the daughter of Seth and Azurah. This happened in the 3rd week of the 7th Jubilee. Enos is recognized as one of Seth and Azurah's sons and is known for his strong devotion to God. The Bible mentions Enos in Genesis 5:6-11, which outlines his genealogy as follows. Seth was 105 years old when he had Enos. After Enos was born, Seth lived another 807 years and had other sons and daughters. Seth lived a total of 912 years before passing away. Enos lived 90 years before having his son Cain. After Cain's birth, Enos lived another 815 years and had more sons and daughters. Enos lived a total of 905 years before he died. One of the most important characteristics of Enos was his devotion to prayer and worship. The Bible highlights this in Genesis 4:26, which states, "At that time people began to call on the name of the Lord." This suggests that Enos played a significant role in leading people toward worship and devotion to God. His time marked an era when the descendants of Seth began to seek a deeper spiritual connection and religious devotion. According to the ancient book of Jubilees and Semitic Jewish tradition, Cain married his sister Avon, which led to the lineage of Cain. Meanwhile, Seth married his sister Azurah, giving rise to the lineage of Seth. You might be wondering how many sons and daughters Adam and Eve had. The Bible suggests that they had many children, especially considering that Adam lived for more than 800 years. In fact, Adam and Eve were the most fertile humans of their time. As the first woman, Eve was highly fertile, and Adam was equally capable of fathering many children. According to ancient traditions, they had hundreds upon hundreds of sons and daughters throughout their lives. In modern times, the Guinness World Records recognizes Valentina Vassiliev as the woman with the most recorded children in history. She reportedly passed away at the age of 76, leaving behind 69 surviving children, with only 2 dying young. According to the records, she had 27 pregnancies, resulting in 16 pairs of twins, 7 sets of triplets, and 4 sets of quadruplets. While there are other reports of women having 50 or even 60 children, Valentina Vassiliev remains the official record holder. However, what is truly remarkable is that Eve surpassed all of these women in fertility. She is considered the most fertile woman in human history. If a woman in recent history could give birth to nearly 70 children, imagine how many Eve could have had, given that she lived much longer, up to 900 years, according to the Bible. Ancient traditions estimate that Adam and Eve had at least 70 children, though some speculate the number was even higher. Given their exceptional health, strength, and fertility, along with the cultural emphasis on procreation during their time, it is very likely that they had hundreds of sons and daughters. In Genesis 6:1, the Bible states that as the descendants of Adam multiplied across the earth, many beautiful daughters were born. An interesting but often overlooked detail is that both the sons and daughters of Adam and Eve carried their own unique ethnic characteristics. Since Adam and Eve were originally of mixed ancestry, this contributed to the wide variety of ethnicities and races among their descendants. Despite the vast ethnic diversity we see in humanity today, all people share a common origin in Adam and Eve. This idea is supported by the study of mitochondrial DNA, which scientists call mitochondrial Eve. This genetic research confirms that all modern humans trace back to a single ancestral mother, reinforcing the biblical concept of a shared human ancestry despite our differences. So, were you already familiar with the story of Adam and Eve's daughters? Feel free to share your thoughts in the comments and suggest other biblical topics or characters you'd like to see explored in a future video. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.